Yo, what up YouTube? It's Richawd back with another video. AI is the future. We're going through a phase in the world right now, in the US, what have you. Things are being restructured and being prepared to be resurfaced. You know, some feel for the better, some feel for the worse. It's going to be a lot of people losing their jobs. This is only the beginning. We've already seen this happen. We've already known that this will be happening, and now it's about to start happening. This is why people like me tell you to get close to God, because it's going to come times where you're going to have to just move on faith. A lot of people, if God ain't working with you, that devil, that temptation is going to take over, and you're going to fall for the baits. You're going to fall for what they want you to fall for. They want you, when next month starts, to get desperate and, try to go take something, or, they want you to be fighting and arguing amongst families, because they know when money gets tight, temperaments get tight. People start arguing, people start crashing out. I want you guys to do a little homework after you watch this video. I'll remind you at the end if you forget, for those who watch all the way to the end. I want you guys to look up the documentary called Food Stamps Over Fathers. It's about 51 minutes long. It's on YouTube. Just type Food Stamps Over Fathers. And I want you to watch the episodes on the show The Boondocks of the story of Thugnificent. Right? You've probably seen it before, but just watch it again. Refresh your memory, What's going on right now, a lot of people are in a position and they're just pawns to keep certain people at a lower level, a lower state, to keep you dumber. That's why certain people attack people like me, who try to raise the level of thinking, who try to raise what one may call the vibration, who, just trying to put some soul into the people. It's a lot of lifeless, energy being put out into the world. It's a lot of destructive energy being put out into the world. It's a lot of angry energy, demonic energy being put out into the world. And I'm trying to tell people that that's not the only way to make it. That's the way they want to tell you to make it, But I've been around, so-called, white people and things of that nature. And, even certain black people who just move on a certain code. I'm not even going to make it about race. I've been around people that move with order and logic, right? And they raise their kids to be a certain way. They're typically strict parents, But typically those kids, they grow up, even though as a kid they may have hated their parents for being so strict, they grow up and they end up being productive people in society. They don't end up on some block, selling drugs, and they don't end up like a lot of these women becoming escorts and becoming hoes, They end up valuing themselves more, being connected with something, especially when, you raise your kids up in the word, you raise your kids up, to be righteous people, It doesn't mean that your kids are going to be perfect. A lot of kids, you hear the stories about the pastor's daughter and the pastor's son. A lot of kids, because when you have limited access to things, it makes you crave it, especially when you're in a world that continues to tempt you. Everywhere you look, you get tempted, right? So a lot of times the ones that went without it for so long, when they finally get it, they end up overindulging, But you raise up a kid in the ways and they won't depart from it. They may go through a phase where they overindulge in certain things, or they may go through certain weird phases because they're curious or whatever. But eventually, if you raise them right, some of them turn back to what they need to turn back to. But it's so many things in this world detracting your kids and shifting your kids away from a righteous way of living. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it's a lot of things shifting people away from a righteous way of living. And we're in a society where degeneracy and low level thinking, just dumb shit is accepted now, And if you're one of these people that call out the dumb stuff, they just gaslight you, they call you a hater, all these little things, but they don't talk about what you're saying. They don't talk about why you're trying to chastise certain behavior, when really you're just trying to help. People like me, I'm just trying to help. I'm trying to help you become a better person. I'm trying to help you realize that, did I tell y'all? Yeah, I gave y'all 2 homework assignments. Look up Food stamps over fathers, and that documentary is like 51 minutes long. It's going to show you how they brought in food stamps and government assistance to break up the black families and to take the power away from the black father. Because before 1964, in the 50s and 40s, the black father was the head over the household. He was the chief in command over his household. He had control, and he had his woman's respect. Even though his woman may not have liked him all the time, he had her respect, and that's all that matters, is having your woman's respect, because sometimes she's not gonna like you, sometimes you're not gonna like her, but as long as y'all respect each other, y'all can make this thing work. But now they gave the woman an out. Oh, if you're going through a phase where you don't like your man, where y'all may be beefing or y'all may not be seeing eye to eye, you can just leave. And if you leave, we'll give you benefits where you will actually be doing better than you would have been doing with your man. The benefits and the food stamps and all that, you get more benefits the more kids you have, right? And by being single, you get less by being with the man than being divorced, is the point I was trying to make. So they've incentivized the woman to be an independent woman. And like I said, you independent women are just pawns. They're making you feel important. They're giving you platforms. They're giving you false idols to look up to. And, oh, Cardi B's doing it. Oh, Sexy Red's doing it. Why can't I? They're putting all these 304s in position of prominence. And it works on both ends. The same way they're putting a lot of these, so-called rappers and black entertainers, people that seem to not have a brain, because I think it's just the script. Because you got to understand, the people in the highest position, the same way when Kyrie Irving came out and told people about that book, the same way they silenced him, they can silence, the ratchet behavior. They can silence rappers rapping about literally unaliving somebody. A rapper can come and rap about unaliving somebody, no problem, no censorship. But somebody come on here and you're speaking the same way these rappers speak, with the same, passion and just the same passion and vigor and soul as some of these people may be speaking about. Well, some of them ain't really got no soul, but you get my point. Like, you're speaking with the same passion about things as these rappers. You may be faulty at the mouth, right? You may have a potty mouth, as they call it. They'll let the rappers slide, talking about doing licks and how depressed they are and how they hate life and how they're demonic and how they worship the devil. No problem. You get all the views, you get all the attention. You can come on here like these streamers, you know what I'm saying? And the reason why I keep targeting it is because I see these are the main people who they promote. These are the main people who the children are watching, and the target is the children. That's why you got so many of these YNs demonic as hell. Right? Because they're watching these people and they're demonic as hell, and they're teaching you to be demonic as hell. Right? That's why these NBA Youngboy concerts demonic as hell. Y'all can get mad at Charleston Wright for calling it out, but what Charleston Wright said was true. Right? The reason why a lot of you niggas relate to NBA Youngboy is because he makes music about pain. He makes music about trauma. He makes music about being angry. He makes music about being hurt. And that's the majority of his audience. Right? A bunch of hurt people. Right? That want to hurt other people. That's why his concerts be so dangerous. That's why he couldn't come to Chicago, right? Because allegedly, it was some people talking about doing things to NBA Youngboy and his fans, so things was fun to get spooky if he came to Chicago, because if y'all forgot, he was beefing with some prominent rappers in Chicago during the period, right? I think King Von, whoever he was beefing with, one of them niggas. But my point is this. Now we're at a point where we got all these people getting laid off from their jobs, losing their food stamps right around the holiday season. I think it's purposely being laid out this way, right? To break down the people. And like I said, you guys are following false idols. You're following pawns. I'm trying to get you to realize that. Watch the story of Thugnificent. It will show you, right? They make a mockery out of you. They laugh at you. It was a scene in the story of Thugnificent. Like I said, I hope y'all go watch it. It was a scene where they put him on TV and he's wearing this suit and he's trying to act all proper and all this because, so-called blacks, they feel like they got a cold switch when they get around white people. They don't feel like they can be themselves. And the white people just laughed at him and made a mockery out of him. And because he wasn't saying anything that made sense, he wasn't very smart, you know? He wasn't very talented. He was just an industry plant, like the majority of these niggas these days. Industry plants. They purposely go find some pea-brain nigga in the hood, some single mom ass nigga in the hood, some hurt nigga in the hood, some nigga that's suicidal, don't want to be here anyway. And they offer them the world. You think these niggas not gonna take it? They don't care about life anyway. They don't have a nurturing mother. They don't have a nurturing father. They seeing their mom bring in different dudes every week. You know what I'm saying? So they don't value women. They don't respect women. They don't even respect their mom. They see their mom getting tricked out. You know, they see their mom bouncing on this dig and stick and that dig and stick to pay the rent, to pay the water bill, to pay the light bill. They see their mama getting tricked out, so it does something to your psyche when you grow up watching your mom be a hoe, you know? So now they go find one of these traumatized ass niggas from the hood. Like the majority of these niggas in the hood, traumatized and hurt. That's why y'all relate to NBA Youngboy so bad. And they offer you something if they see a little bit, if they see that you can impact a certain market. NBA Youngboy, he was able to impact a certain market. But like I tell y'all, he's nothing special. There's NBA Youngboys all through the hood. Niggas that are perked up, can rap, and get all the women. You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of niggas in the hood just like NBA Youngboy, bro. Nothing special. And you know why they're like that? You know why they feel comfortable being like that? Because they have false idols like NBA Youngboy to look up to and be like, hey, NBA Youngboy doing it. He rich, he this, he that. But watch the story of Thugnificent. I promise you, NBA Youngboy ain't as well off as y'all think he is. He ain't as rich as y'all think he is. It costs money to go to jail and get out of jail. He probably got all type of lawyer fees, debts, and all this and that. That's why he's on tour working his ass off, because he got to pay all that shit back. That's why all these people that sell out to the system, to the industry, they can never retire. It's a lifelong deal. You're a corporate pawn for life. You got to go on tour for life. You know, I don't care if you can barely walk. I don't care if you can barely talk. Goddamn, we'll use AI to do your voice. All you got to do is go up there and lip sync, but you gonna go perform forever, right? Forever, ever, forever, ever, forever, ever. And I'm trying to tell y'all, these people are pawns. I'm trying to tell the young dude in the hood, you're better off, you know, focusing on school, maybe focusing on a sport, focusing on something productive, focusing on knowledge building wealth, you know. Working hard, getting a job, you know, saving your money, spending your money better, right? And the reason why I speak about the so-called black community so much is because I'm trying to help my community. We're the main ones being targeted. We're the main ones being pushed down. I'm trying to help us elevate to a higher level. See, we're not in a position to worry about other people in other communities. We're not in a position to worry about the illegals and what they're doing to the illegals. We got to fix our home first. Right? When you got a home and you got a roof that's leaking, you can't be worried about your neighbor's roof that's leaking when your own roof is leaking. You got to fix your own roof first. If you got a house and your floors done caved in, you can't worry about your neighbors who they floors done caved in when your floors have caved in. You got to fix yours first. We got to fix the black communities first. I'm not worried about any other community. I'm worried about mine and how we're being targeted and how we're being dumbed down and kept at a lower state. So that's why I talk about our community so much in the Pookies and Ray Rays and Tyrones and this, down, and third, because a lot of you guys, you're following the script. You're doing what they want you to do. You're following these pawns because you think they're powerful. You think they're important when they're no different than you, right? A lot of them have no power. A lot of them are check to check, just like you. Right? They're just living a more expensive lifestyle, but a lot of them are sad and depressed just like you. A lot of them are stressing about how they're going to eat just like you. A lot of them are stressing about how they're going to pay their bills just like you. A lot of them got anxiety. Damn, what if I fall off? You know how many rappers fall off? And now they got to go right back to the streets, right? Now they got to get that CDL, right? Bunch of rappers, bro, you'll be surprised. These rappers aren't paid, bro. These entertainers aren't paid, bro. You see all these rappers, I think Cameron is suing somebody because for one of his hit songs, he ain't even get paid for. You know how many artists out here that made a hit song they ain't get paid for, bro? Because they're pawns, right? They've been tricked, right? They were offered to lose something. They were loaned something, given something. You see them in the nice cars and the big house. They don't own none of that. All that shit is leased. All the jewelry, all the clothes. Who came out and admitted? I think Kodak said it. He said, man, I don't own none of this. You know what I'm saying? I don't own none of this. One of the rappers said, I think Lucky, or one of them said, or it was that fat rapper, that overweight rapper. I forget his name. The one that's severely overweight. I forget it. These niggas aren't that important to me. I don't be remembering these niggas like that. But he one of them big dudes, bro. And he said, yeah, they literally give me drugs. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you can promote an image. See, they getting free clothes, they getting free drugs, they getting free cars, free houses, and they're influencing you in the hood to go pay for that shit. It's all a trick. It's all a trick, bro. Y'all, all these people are being used as pawns to distract people, especially so-called black people, from the fact that we have no ownership. All these rappers out here making all these money, but they don't even own their music. Their label owns the music. Right, rappers like Tupac Shakur passes away, and the label owns everything. His allegedly he died broke. Right, some people don't believe it. Some people think it's cap, but I believe it. Right, because the majority of these rappers we see today, if they was to just drop, and they tour check and came in, they probably would have dropped broke. I'm telling you, the majority of these rappers are check to check, bro. That's why you be seeing these rappers go to jail for being in the streets and this, that, and the third. You like, you a rapper. Why you still selling drugs? Why you still doing this? Because they're broke, bro. They still got to get out here and hustle just like the rest of us. You know, the people in control just want you to think they rich. They just want you to think they're important. They just want you to think they doing major shit when they're not, bro. When they're not. But with all these job lays off and all this and that, bro, you know, I think this is necessary pressure, right? People are going to have to start adjusting their lifestyles and making smarter decisions. You know, you can't spend all your money on drugs anymore. You can't spend all your money on going out anymore. You can't spend all your money on clothes anymore. You know, things that depreciate in value. You got to start investing in things that are going to appreciate over time. You got to start looking at the long-term picture and not the short-term picture. We should be able to see by now that the short-term picture, the scamming money, the finessing money, the street money, yeah, you may have a phase if you that nigga for real, you know, and you got motion. You may have a phase where you got shit going, but eventually hating ass niggas gonna snitch on you. Eventually some broad gonna get you caught up. Eventually you're gonna have all these baby mamas and you're gonna be paying all this child support. Eventually, it all comes down because it's not built on nothing strong. It doesn't have a strong foundation. The street life doesn't have a strong foundation. It's only meant to be temporary, right? That's why if you're smart and you're in the streets, get you a little bread, invest in a business, and get on up out of there. That's the smart thing to do. But a lot of these niggas, they get comfortable with the street life, and the street life always catches up to them for the most part, right? So my point is this. I don't want this video. Damn, it's been 18 minutes. This is actually my second time filming this. The first one was like 40 minutes. And I'm like, bro, this is way too long, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I had to make another video. That video might have been a banger, but that's just what it is being a creator. It's all type of videos that I done deleted that shit may have got 1 million views if I posted it. But I was like, I don't like it, you know? But my final point is this. You got to start making smarter decisions because the system is changing right before your eyes. They're getting rid of a lot of the gimmicks. A lot of these things they're getting rid of, it didn't benefit us anyway. The civil rights and all that, you know, DEI. They're getting rid of all the black. What have you learned from the quote unquote black educate, like the black history education and all that shit that they're getting rid of? They weren't teaching you nothing. They weren't teaching you about the emperors and the kings, and they weren't teaching you none of that. All they taught you about was slavery. So go on and get rid of that shit. We should be teaching our people our history anyway. We shouldn't be relying on the system to teach our kids our history. We shouldn't be relying on a quote unquote white man to teach us our history. That shows you the weak mindset that y'all have. Oh, you're getting rid of black history studies? Why aren't you teaching me about my history? Oh my God. And you wonder why they don't respect you. You shouldn't be upset about them getting rid of some bullshit ass history that they've been teaching you. But a lot of you guys actually believe in that history that they taught you. That's why you're so dumb, right? Because you got a 3.0, you got a 4.0, but you really ain't learning shit for real, right? When it really comes to real life issues, you know what I'm saying? You really don't know much for real, because you're not learning anything of substance. And they're purposely teaching you these things, making you feel like you're smart, like I said, making you a pawn. A lot of y'all are pawns. A lot of y'all went to college, got a degree, still don't know shit. Still don't know how to work a business. Still don't know how to build a business. Still don't know nothing about finances. Still don't know nothing about the government. Still don't know how life works. You just know what they taught you. You just know how to be a good old worker. You just know how to clock in on time and do your job and leave. You just know how to do what you're told. Right? They don't teach you to be a boss. They don't teach you how to improvise. They don't teach you how to deal with certain problems and certain issues. They don't teach you about your history, so your self-esteem will rise. Black people, your self-esteem is so low because you don't know your history. You think you come from slaves when you come from emperors and kings and queens. But they don't teach you about that history. Yeah, they teach you a little bit about, or you may learn a little bit about Egypt, but nigga, what about Rome? What about Spain? We ruled this entire world, the so-called black man, the so-called Israelites. We ruled the entire world. What about those stories? They don't teach us that. See, we need to gear our focus. We need to gear our focus towards learning that. We need to gear our focus towards learning about certain loopholes in this society so we can get ahead, so we don't have to live off of food stamps, so we don't have to live off of the system. Right? I think food stamps should be necessary, but they should be temporary. Or I think food stamps are necessary, but it should be temporary. It shouldn't be people living 20, 30 years off of food stamps. There's single mothers out there. They just pump out kid after kid after kid and live off of the system their whole life. That shouldn't be allowed, right? It should be a certain threshold. It should be a max, right? You get 3 to 6 months to get your shit together. If you don't get your shit together within those 3 to 6 months, your benefits are cut, right? You got 3 to 6 months to get it together. That should be more than enough time to find you another job, woo off the band, figure something out, right? That's what I believe. And I believe anybody who's disabled and can't work should be able to get benefits. That's what I believe. But able-bodied, healthy people just living off of the system, no. You should have to figure out a way, just like everybody else has to figure out a way. You should have to pick up a second job. You should have to pick up a side hustle. You should have to hustle and work hard, work 6 days a week if you got to. That should be your solution, right? And to me, that'll make you stronger as a person. That'll make you more independent as a person and not as dependent on the system. See, what we should be dependent on is our families, not the system, right? When we're struggling, we should depend on our family, not the system. They've taught us they've reversed it. It was a time where if we were struggling, you would help each other out. You would help people in your family if they were struggling. The families were a lot stronger. But once they brought the government in, that broke down the families. Now family members, have become narcissistic and have become distant from their families because they don't need their families as much. So I think it's a blessing in disguise because a lot of people are going to have to need their families again. And this time, 7 women will cleave to one man. A lot of women are going to have to cleave to one man. Either that or starve. There's going to be a lot of women getting humbled out here. A lot of single women, I don't need a man. They going to be humbled out here. They either going to get humbled or they going to be selling a box. And some of them still going to get humbled. They going to go out there and think they going to go to the strip club and think they going to do this and that and make money. And you're going to realize it's all type of women trying to do the same thing you trying to do. Right? Now you got to compete with all these other women for these men. Right? And only the baddest of the baddest is going to get the highest bidders. The rest of y'all going to be asked out. The rest of y'all going to find out you're not as pretty as you think you are. But that's neither here nor there. So I think all that's happening right now is necessary because so-called black people, so-called people who are struggling, people in poverty, survival of the fittest now. Survival of the fittest, and that's how it ought to be. Because when you're in a mode where you got to survive and it's survival of the fittest, right? Now you got to make smarter investments, right? Now you can't trick off money. Now you got to start thinking more. People don't got to think as much because they know they're getting that check from the government every month. People don't have to think as much because they know if they fall on hard times, they can run down to the county and get some benefits. Oh, now you got to think, oh, what if I get fired from this job? All right, let me make sure I keep a savings, right? Let me make sure I put 2-3 months worth of rent ahead, right? Oh, well, in this economy, it's hard to save money. Y'all got money to get your nails done. Y'all got money to get your hair done. Y'all got money to have all the flyest shoes, the flyest Jordans. Y'all got money to get all the flyest clothes. Y'all got money to get the big screen TVs. Y'all got money to get the new PlayStation. So if you got money for that, you should have a little money to put aside. Even if it's just $50 a check, start small, build big. Well, you should be able to put something aside. And that's just what it's going to take. And the people that can't figure out a way, you're going to starve, right? You're going to starve. And to me, that's how it ought to be, because that's going to bring out the best in people. That's going to make people work harder. That's going to make people, you know what I'm saying, be more humble, right? It's a lot of entitled, demonic people running around here. And God is humbling y'all, because y'all forget, as y'all following Satan, that God controls Satan, right? God is in control of all of this. All you that have turned your back on God and you worship the dollar and you worship this and you worship that, all you witches and warlocks, and you know, God is still in control. You only have so much power. You only have a temporary time, right? So I think this is a good thing. All these people getting laid off from their job. People getting laid off from their job is a good thing? Yes. I think the food stamps getting cut is a good thing. Food stamps getting cut is a good thing? Yes, because what's going to happen is it's going to cause a breakdown and a reconstruction. I think what we have right now isn't good. It's declining. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to break it down as it's already declining. It's already going to shit. It's like you got a car and it's on its last legs. You might as well go junk it, right, while you can. Right. So that's basically what they're doing. They're junking it while they can, because eventually it ain't going to be able to run. Now you got to pay a tow truck. Now you got to pay extra money to get rid of the car. You might as well just go take it to the junkyard while you can still drive it. Get whatever money you can off of it and, you know, start saving up money for a better car. And I think that's what they're doing right now. They see the system isn't working. They see it's a lot of people getting over, finessing, finagling, doing the bare minimum. Right. So now they're breaking down all these loopholes where people were able to do the bare minimum, and they're forcing people to work. They're forcing people to raise their level of thinking. They're forcing people to raise their level of conduct. And we're going to see in these times who are the real thinkers. A lot of people aren't going to be thinking. They're just going to be reacting, and they're going to be reacting emotionally. They're going to be running up in stores. They're going to be running up in houses. Better not run up in my house. Right. Better not run up in my house unless you're ready to see the Lord. But it's going to be a lot of people making bad decisions. And God is going to judge these people. So I think right now it's just a huge judgment that is going on. It's a shift that's going on, most importantly. You know, the world is shifting from what it is now to an AI-based society. I think new jobs and things of that nature are going to be created. It's going to be a different type of society. So right now, people are going to have to hurt for a little bit, right? But that's necessary. It's necessary pain, right? And those that are strong enough, you're going to hurt, you're going to suffer, but you'll get through it. And when you get through it, you'll be a better person, right? And those that don't get through it, you wasn't meant to get through it. That's just how I see it. But Amazon and UPS have laid off thousands of workers going into the holiday season. Food stamps is about to be cut going into the holiday season. So we have to raise our level of conduct, bro. Right? That's the solution. And all the pea brains, all the low-level thinkers, you will be exposed. All the people who really don't got no plan. All the people who have lacked humility. Right? Now, some people, they're going to get humbled and they're going to get closer to their families. They're going to get closer to their baby daddies or their baby mamas. This is going to be a blessing in disguise for some people. But some people, they're not going to be that humble. Right? Some people, they're going to be too prideful for that. Right? And they're going to go out in a blaze. Right? And they're going to end up in these prisons and in these cemeteries. That's what they want. So don't be one of the pea brains that end up getting caught up in the mess. And if you do have a brain, understand just having a brain ain't enough. You got to be a little street savvy, right? Don't look like food and you around a bunch of wolves, right? I go in the hood, I try to look broke. I try to look broke. When I go to work, when I'm in the hood, I don't wear nothing nice. I wear some basic clothes. You know what I'm saying? I already drive a decent car, so that's going to bring a little attention my way. But I don't want people thinking I got it going on, especially when I know they starving. No, I don't want them to think I'm starving just like them. I want them to think I'm struggling. I don't know what I'm going to eat just like them, right? You got to be smart, you know? So we're going to find out who's street savvy, who's really about that life, who's really the survivors. The cream always rises to the top. The Most High always looks after his people. So as long as you got God with you, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But we finna see who don't got God with them. We gonna see the consequences of all the people who have turned away from God and are in these streets living demonic. That lifestyle will always catch up to you. Remember that, all you street dudes. I get on y'all so hard because I know y'all on a train to hell. Y'all are on a train to hell. And I'm trying to tell y'all, get off at the next stop, right? Get off at the next stop and hop on a different train. Go the other direction, right? But I'm gone, man.